should.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell them to unmute.
Nathan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Do you want to run the meeting from Zoom?
No, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to the whole meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's 7 o'clock.
Can you legally do that? He can, yeah, if he doesn't want to provide. Okay.
Okay.
No voter.
He just, well, he can't vote anyway.
All right.
He only votes for them times.
Right.
And Drew doesn't get to vote twice.
I'll call the August 3rd, 2020 Beresford City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Anderson? Troy Boone?
Here.
Gerald Lee?
Here.
Troy Doty?
Present.
Art Schott?
Here.
Teresa Spigen? Here. Mike Tiedemann?
Here. The agenda was sent out. Is there any changes to the agenda?
Just one under new business. It should be change order number 2 for fiber to the home project. We have number 1 on there, so it's actually number 2.
That's it.
Well, if you pick up the door, it's gonna change.
Yeah, you got the update on that?
All right. So, can I have a motion for the amended agenda?
Golden moves to adopt the agenda.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the amended agenda. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Motion passed. Approve the minutes from July 20th.
Who moved to approve the minutes from July 20th, 2020?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from July 20th of 2020. Any more discussion? Concerns? All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearings. Request from Pearson Construction, Chris Pearson, member to vacate the portion of public right-of-way consisting of West Lane Track 1, Gaber's Tracks Addition in the southeast quarter of Section 32, Track 90. Township 96 R50.
Range 50.
Thank you. Of the 5th PM, City of Beresford, Lincoln County. Is there anything?
For what that all entails, right?
That was a long thing.
I think Chris is here if you guys had any questions for him. He's been talking about this for a year since he bought the property up there, and we finally decided to go forward and ask for the vacation of the property. It's on North Ash Street there. He owns both sides of the property abutting. It's the old botanist property, if some of you guys remember that. I talked to the street guy, water, sewer, stuff like that. It makes more sense for anything that would develop in the Dolan property to go to the north with the sewer. It all falls that way. So if we wouldn't extend it all the way through Chris's property, you might be able to pick up one house, and it's just too expensive to do that. So in order to make it more affordable for Chris to do what he wants to do there, he's asked to vacate this. Am I correct?
That's
Anything else?
exactly spot on. We dug water and sewer down the street. I put a manhole there, kind of preparing for future expansion. It's kind of where we're shooting.
What happens when these happen, then the ownership of that reverts back to the adjoining property owners, right? And Chris owns both sides of Ash Street, so it would revert back. So half would go over on Westland Track 1 and half on Gamberg's Track 1, but probably a chance he'll replat down the road and make it one.
How does that work right now? Am I paying tax on that anyway?
No.
Because
No,
I'm not paying on the right of way, right?
correct.
So if this goes through, then they file it with the county, and then I get the tax bill for that
Correct.
section.
And usually what they'll do is they'll just add to your description. They'll say, Westland Track 1 and vacated half of Ash Street, and the other one would say the same thing.
Okay.
That's pretty typical how they would do it. So they don't plat it out as a separate parcel. They just So you take the street right away in the middle and half goes property to the west and half property to the east.
Gotcha.
So we wouldn't need an easement for anything that would go through their city, water, electric.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think anything's gonna go that way, going forward.
Is there an easement for Oak Street? If there was ever any development going north of that property, that we could run utilities
Could, yeah, there's a,
up on Oak?
What's the next street down? Is that
To the west, it's Oak.
Is Oak?
Yep.
that one's still there, and then of course you can come in on Prairie, or First, both have manholes. But most likely, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it right, you're gonna come in from the south. We've got that new 12-inch line down there by the substation. That's where most of the sewer would all naturally flow to.
The sewer and water for Hendricks, what is that?
That comes into that one, Troy, the one that I just said down by the new substation. And then the water comes down on Old 77, we put an 8-inch main there, so they could tie into that main anywhere if they were to
The
develop
sewer
that.
comes,
Because there's only 4-inch lines,
Does
because
the
you got a 4-inch line or something over there.
does the sewer come off of First all the way out here by the ballpark?
It does, it goes all the way out.
All the way out to here?
Pretty much to the, yeah,
Okay.
the new substation. It goes past that just a little bit, doesn't it?
It runs down Memory Road,
Yeah, right
down
down
the
the
ball
ball.
fields.
Yeah.
Down to the new, about right by the substation, that goes north.
We just need a motion to,
Well, yeah, the hearing is to be over, and then you just, we have a resolution in there, which we'll actually file with the county if you guys would adopt that resolution tonight.
So I make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-09, vacate the street right away.
Doden second.
Motion's been made to adopt resolution 2020-09, vacating street right away for Peterson Construction. Any more discussion?
I guess I have a question, just so we're clear. We already did the reading of it, right?
So what this requires is you have notice in a public hearing, so this is the public hearing tonight. If the council approves of the vacation after the public hearing, then you adopt a resolution.
Okay.
Which you can do at the same meeting as the public hearing, so. And then that's published, and then 20 days after publication is effective, and then we record that with the county.
Okay.
So it's not like I could go out and start moving dirt tomorrow. I would need to wait 20 days from tonight. Is that the way I'm understanding?
20 days from publication, which will probably be next Thursday, but, I mean, if nobody's here complaining, it's not likely to be referred, but obviously, it could be, so.
And since it came to the council, it's already went past planning and zoning, I'm sure.
Didn't have
They
to.
didn't have
The
to.
process is by statute, it comes right to the council.
It comes right to the council. Okay.
So in other words, it'd be almost 5 weeks before you can move dirt legally.
I just want to start pulling trees out. So
We'll hear about that.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Alright,
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
You can. He's supposed to vote, right?
Yeah.
All right.
You don't lose your right to vote.
Alright.
But you don't get to vote twice to break a tie, you do, this is 3-3 votes, so. Don't think you have all that power.
All right. Moving on, visitors to be heard, Scott Clensa, Beresford PRCE Director. Are you there, Scott?
He was.
There he is.
I was feeding my face with spaghetti, so I turned my camera off.
I can't hear you. Can you turn your TV up here?
Any better?
Wait,
Oh, let me switch. Is that any better there?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. So I was feeding my face with spaghetti, so I had my camera off. A couple things as far as baseball, softball. A couple things I just wanted to share. Yesterday, let me do this. Yesterday, our 16U Teener baseball team won the State A championship for baseball. So that happened in West Central. I was going to share a picture with you guys, but I don't have screen sharing ability, so I can't do that. But we did have the state championships yesterday. We were also region champs for the 16A. It's the 5th year in a row being in the state championship game and the 3rd state championship in the 5 years. So a lot of success, especially with that 16U team. A couple things we wanted to make sure and thank the city for. The electric department came out last week and dug all the holes so we can build our fall ball structures at both north fields. And then also to Greg Bates and his team for our field maintenance throughout the season. And then they also helped install the polycap on the north fields as well. So thank you to the city and specifically those two departments for their help over the last month, 2 months. A couple projects I was going to show you guys pictures of. The things we have going on, if some of you have gone out to the north fields and seen with the new signage that's put up on our new fencing, it looks really impressive. The fall ball structures started going up yesterday, so if you do have time, you can go out, and those structures are currently being built. There's a new soft toss hitting off of a T cage that's being built right now, and then we will also be concreting the batting cage yet this fall as well at the two north fields. Some of you may have seen all the renovations going on at the south field behind the high school. The high school or the school district is putting forth about $8,000 for that project, and then the Baseball Association is doing all the work in the renovations. We fixed the fence, we've installed polycap. There's already new dugouts poured. We're just waiting for the new fence to be installed so we can build new dugouts at that south field as well. It's really looks pretty impressive from where it was last year. The main thing to talk about, we wanted to approach you guys today is, and I've talked to a few of you, we do have a proposal set forth to do some pretty significant renovations to the Teener Legion field. The Teener Legion field is about 40 years old. And the field itself has had very little done to it in those 40 years. Probably just adding the irrigation, adding some agri-lime, and then there's been some perimeter things with the dugouts and with the practice box. But the field itself is pretty much the way it was 40 years ago, roughly. Some of you might know exactly how long that field's been there, but so we do have a proposal to put forth. The one that I had sent Jerry a couple weeks ago, we do have a quote from a different company as well that just came today, so that's not included in that information. But a couple things we'd like to do with the proposal is one, all of the current agri-lime area, in other words, everywhere that is currently our dirt infield would become turf. Which would basically eliminate all rainouts in the infield, all snowouts, a consistent, safe playing field. It would eliminate probably 2 hours every game day of work for Greg's team in field preparation and all those different types of things, and about probably 45 minutes of after game maintenance that our teams do. Let's see. Other things, one of the things that I've talked to some of the council members about is building a perimeter fence outside of our current fence. So we actually have a true gate entrance that would be by the concession stand. So when we host tournaments, when we host regions, we don't have to put up the snow fences, block both roads, have somebody doing tickets at each corner, have somebody doing tickets at Runners Point. In our field, you have access from everywhere, which makes it impossible to do any type of a gate fee, a controlled entrance, anything like that. And then the last thing, and I've talked to Greg Bates, and he's in favor of this, is closing off that back road with gates. So basically the maintenance area on the south side of the baseball field would be basically a parking lot for baseball, softball, for all of Greg's workers, and not be a through road, which I don't think it was ever meant to be a through road, even though most people use it as one now. So the fence and the gating is something we would like to propose that the city council consider in their budget for next year. And then what we'd be looking at as far as our renovations for the field is potentially, we would like to get it done this fall yet, would be the potential to get a loan from the city so we could do the field renovations, and then baseball, softball would be able to set up a payment plan to pay the city back, so we can get those renovations completed this fall yet.
How much was your new bid?
Our new bid is $140,000. It's probably, I think it's done correctly though. In visiting with other people, the way our first bid person was going to do it, he was kind of guaranteeing like 7 to 10 years, but we were doing 90% of the prep work. On the new bid, he was anticipating at least 15 years, if not more, that the turf would be good for, even in the high use areas. They would do all the work professionally, so it would get done correctly, and all the installation, all the prep work, all of that would be done by this company. And it's done at a little bit higher quality than the first quote as well. So I think the second quote is doing it the right way, where the first quote was doing it the cheaper way.
That's how it's structured, but that's
And I can email all you guys the quote later today, tonight or tomorrow. We'll have the new one too, so.
So when you say a loan from the city to the association, Scott, what's your anticipated terms?
That would have something we'd sit down and talk about. The association right now has $25,000 to put towards the project. We just last week and today sent out letters to area businesses, and also we will be sending out to all the families of our registrations, kind of as a donor drive. So we won't know the results of that probably for about 2 weeks. The businesses I'll make follow-up phone calls with this week. So right now, like I said, we have the 25 to go towards the project. There will be some Jack Lawrence funds that go towards the project. I am writing 3 different grants right now to put money towards the project as well, but we won't know if those are funded yet, probably for 3-4 weeks. Part of this is we would, through the length of the loan, baseball, softball will reduce its subsidy request every single year of that, very similar to what we did this year in reducing our subsidy request. And then we'd also set up that payment plan, however the city would want to approach that.
Are you thinking a 10-year term? What? 15?
Ideally, I would see it being considerably shorter. I mean, if we have the second fence where we can control a gate, that means we can host tournaments during the year. So we would be able to increase our income with that secondary fence. So I could see us being able to pay back quicker because of that. The secondary fence, it really is, one, it's a safety feature, along with closing that road, is a safety feature for little kids, for Greg's workers, for all of our baseball players. But it also allows us to host tournaments on that field, where it's just way too labor intensive right now to try and control where everybody comes from. I would see it probably closer to a 7 or 8 year payment plan, probably.
And baseball gets, just remind me quick, 10 grand a year? Baseball, soccer?
Traditionally, we've gotten 10 grand a year. This year, we took 5. So we reduced our request in half for this year.
But you'd refuse that until the loan was paid.
Not the full amount, just.
Yeah, we would reduce that along with making the payments back, yes.
Is there any interest on that? Is there any interest on the loan?
That would be up to you guys. You know, one of the things that we're looking at.
No. No, I mean, we charge at the golf course.
So that, what's the estimated annual costs of maintaining that field for games that we would eliminate? The chalking, the prep work, the extra maintenance to it between games? You can spend 5 to 10 grand a year prepping the field for games? The city?
Yeah, we figured over a 10-year period. We figured roughly of Greg's workers, $42 a day times roughly 35 game days. If we set it over 2 years, we're talking about $15,000 to $20,000. That would be saved out of Greg's budget, you know, as a rough estimate. Chalk, I have no idea what Greg spends in chalk, but they would eliminate the need for chalk other than the 2 north fields. When we get additional trucks of agar lime, every load of agar lime that we have to get, which we should get every year or 2, we haven't got any for like 3 or 4, but is about $1,500 to $2,000 a truckload. Realistically, we should get 2 to 3 truckloads a year right now. The city doesn't have the budget for that. We don't have the budget for that. So that's roughly another $6,000 to $8,000. And then I said we would be able to get a gate. And the only maintenance is really applying some golf course sand or some of the little rubber pellets into the field every once in a while. And replacing the turf in a few high use areas. That's almost all the maintenance that's involved.
Scott, I had a quick question, so I'm clear on the fencing on
Yes.
the perimeter.
Yep.
Is that in the 140,000, or is that just?
No.
That's not in that, right? Okay, so that would be above that.
Well, that's the fencing and gating off that road is just something we would like the council to consider in their 20
Okay.
or in their 21 budget. I mean, we roughly estimated the fencing. If the city buys the fencing and drills the holes, Baseball Association would do the installation. So we're figuring roughly $10,000 in materials, maybe $12,000 in materials. We would do all the installation.
Okay.
So.
And so that we're all clear on the estimated 140,000 quote that you got, do we have to have bids on that since it's over 50,000?
Depends on how you structure it. I mean, if PRCE is the owner, they would not be required to
They
bid
would.
it.
Oh, okay.
But it's going on city property, so I mean, it's.
Okay.
It would, I guess it's all going to depend on how you structure the agreement with them.
Structure the.
Sounds like Tom got some research to do.
If it's a city project, yes, bid it.
So if we are loaning the money, I mean, and it's our property, to me, it sounds a little bit gray that we might be looking into that.
I mean, you gotta make sure it's not structured as a way to get around the bid laws would be the
Right.
concern.
Okay.
So
So you're gonna
I'll take
try to
that.
check into that?
Well, I agree. I agree with, I mean, not with everything, but it's not that I don't agree. Let me start over. I think that we need to stop the traffic that goes through there. That's dangerous. I would 100% agree with that. I mean, I've been out there at baseball fields, or out at games and seen a couple close calls out there already. I guess I'd have to see what you mean about where to put fences and, you know, if you're gonna enclose, you know, out from the outfield fence over to like the bike path and, you know, around the whole thing, I get it, but I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Stopping traffic through there, I think is a really, really good idea, because somebody's gonna get hit. So,
I don't know if whoever technically is hosting the meeting, if they can release the disabled screen share, I can show you exactly where I'm looking at the fence. I have it up on my screen, I just can't screen share.
There's a picture, well, maybe you did get that picture.
The picture that's in our council packet, Scott.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, pretty close, yeah. Let's see if I can scroll down and see it.
I gotta be honest, I don't like that plan, because the bathrooms aren't inside your fence. And there's not room there for expanding a new grandstand someday to include concessions and restrooms.
oh, I thought that was something.
You might as well go wide enough behind the grandstands now to accommodate new ones later. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna put gates for that road anyways, I mean, the fence could go all the way to the bike trail.
If you're gonna gate it all
The
way
gates
off
would
to
just
the
be able to
main
swing
street,
open.
yeah, you don't need the fence behind the grandstand, because that whole street will be gated off.
Is there any reason, is there any
Yeah.
utilities under there that you know of, Mike?
Where,
Under that road?
there's some water lines over by the batting cage, that go over to the golf course, or over to the bathhouse.
Scott,
We
can I
have
chime in?
stuff there, but
What,
if you're
if I can
going
do it
over by the
now?
bike path,
Right.
you know,
One thing about gating off to that west side of that street, you know how fences end up getting pushed over by vehicles and stuff.
problem is your bike path goes right in front of the bathrooms,
Right.
so there's no way to get in there. You'd have to go out the gate and then.
You put doors on the north side.
Right.
So I think you guys can see my screen now.
Yep, we can see it.
You know, saying so I mean, however you wanted, you know, you can adjust the fence. So however, if that's kind of what you guys are talking about roughly. Yeah, we're not looking, to try and go out here is just way too much square footage to try and do fencing. And we eventually will probably do something to change out our outfield fence, but that's a ways down the road yet.
When you say change out, taller, solid fence, right?
Yeah. Yep. Because we know even if we put in this fence, people are still going to stand out here to watch to avoid paying the gate. Where eventually if we go to a solid fence, then people can't just hang out here just to avoid paying the $2 or $3 or whatever it is.
Would this fall under the park committee or the PRC?
I'm on both, so don't look at me.
I'm only on one, so I'm thinking it's PRC.
I'm thinking it's park.
I was actually asking Jerry.
They're asking that the city provide the materials for the fence, but they will install the fence.
Right.
But I think, to me, we gotta work together, PRC and the city, because my biggest thing is I don't want us just putting a fence up. I want it to look nice. And we've gotta we have some great questions going on here on future planning, bathrooms, concession stands, you know. Those are good future, questions for future planning that we're gonna spend all this money on a fence. Let's make it look nice and let's make it usable for future.
Hey, Scott, so
Yeah, I'm listening.
I spent a lot of time over there, when Oliver was playing all those years. We talked about fencing. We talked about fencing 100 times and could never get it into the budget. Where do you propose putting the main gate for people to come in and pass through the gate to pay their admission?
We would put the entrance gate right here by the concession stand. Would be our plan. Now,
What
but if the
fencing
fence,
is expanded?
if the fence is extended, we would probably only allow entrance. We would have to figure this out. If we charged at the gate over here, we left this gate closed. I don't know, we'd have to figure it out with the fence extended. I'm not exactly sure, because then people would be coming in, but these people would try and be walking down to get in as well. I don't really want to have two gate entrances, but
If you close
I'm
that
not sure.
off, if you close that off, Maple off right there, all the way to that maintenance shed, people are accustomed to parking on 8th Street there. That's 8th, right? They're gonna be torqued if they gotta walk all the way around to pay.
Yeah,
Cause you want that closed during games, right? So cars can't pass through there?
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
highway.
the gate would be closed, yeah.
Right. So, but your main entrance is gonna be by concession.
Yeah, we'd have
You'd have
to,
to have a
yeah,
pedestrian gate.
yeah, we'd have to figure it out. We probably have to have two, one over here as people drive in to park, and probably one over here for walk-ups.
I'm just throwing this out here, since we still won't be able to get the bathrooms in that, what if we bring the fence back to where he had it, but somehow work with our street department, our parks department, to close that off anyways, maybe not even with a fence, maybe we put curb, on the end of 8th, so that people can't come by, we make it so that it is, the parks are gonna have to come through on Maple to get to their maintenance shed, they're not gonna come down 8th, I mean, I'm just trying to.
Does
make sure
Maple
that-
officially come all the way to the east, all the way to 8th on the official street map?
No. It's never been designed for a through street.
I'm just trying to think if we could make that aesthetically a nice dead end, so to say, right there.
Well, talking about it in the meeting about where we want people to park and stuff, I think we're just kind of wasting time.
Yeah.
I think we need to get with Scott and figure out the best design for where we're gonna park cars.
Right now, you just want money in the budget for fencing.
Right, he's talking next year,
Right.
he's talking 2021.
Right.
Yeah. So Jerry can worry about designing a fence with them and come with a recommendation. You just want money in the budget to buy fencing material.
Yeah,
I think PRCE, we can work in our meetings too, on what would work best, some ideas. Maybe PRCE can come back with a couple different ideas on how to make it work.
All right.
Scott, do you hear that?
no, I didn't.
Okay, I guess my suggestion is us as PRCE and one of our meetings here, we come up with a couple different designs, options, and bring them back to the city,
Okay,
fencing and how to maybe close off that street and go forward.
Okay. All right, Scott. Thank you for the update, Scott, and congratulations to the, was it 16U?
yep, 16U.
Congratulations.
Do you want me to email you, each of you, the new quote, so you can kind of read the differences between them?
You can just send it to Jerry, I'll forward it.
Okay, I can do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess, Jerry, I guess the council will probably need a recommendation from you at our next meeting, whether we have the ability or the feasibility of doing a loan to the association for their project.
Well, She said they're gonna talk about it,
No.
PRC.
No,
As
she's
far
talking
as
about fence.
Well, no.
I'm talking about the turf project.
Well, PRC probably gonna have to come with, how
Tom's
they,
first gonna have to, sorry, Tom.
No, I gotta
He's
figure out if
gotta figure out if we gotta go over bid or not before we know how much money we need to ask
Right.
from the city. So. We meet on Wednesday, Tom. We do actually meet on Wednesday, but whatever, 6:30,
yeah, that's better than you.
that's right.
Alright. Look for more information on our next meeting.
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on, Evan Leibowitz from the MRES Electric Rate Study Final Report.
That's me. Perfect. And said I'm Evan Leibowitz with Preserve Energy Services. About a year ago, actually, we kicked off this rate study, actually maybe even a little more. It's good every couple, 3-5 years to go through rates, make sure they're really in line, recovering what they need to recover, as well as recovering them from the right classes, residential, recovering class of residential class costs, commercial, etc. So really the results of the study are right here in this presentation. I just want to have a full, hopefully hard copy of the full report. But really this presentation just kind of touches on the highlights and try not to bore you too much here. Hopefully get through it pretty quickly. Again, 4 things here. I'll take a look at the forecast power supply requirements, operating results, and reserves, cost of service analysis, and then the actual proposed rates we're looking at proposing, as well as in comparison to air utilities. 2 slides, 1 more slide. So stepping back then to 2010, kind of see, I guess, really from 2011 up to 2017, in terms of electric load, it's been pretty stable, right around 30,000 megawatt hours. And then, of course, in late 2018, had a large customer that opened, and then 2019 there shows a full year of that large customer being open. So you see about a 5% increase in electric load in 2018, and then about 8% in 2019.
I got a question.
Sure.
You just said the last 2 years there's an increase. How much money do we make in those 2 years?
We'll look at that here in a couple slides, about 6 or 8 slides we can get to that. So again, this looks forward here. So 2020 is actually based on year to date. Year to date, energy actually is down just under 4%, again, largely due to COVID and business operations that are changing, things like that. We're projecting that in 2021, a lot of this will bounce back, and then about a 0.4% increase in load over the next several years. One other thing to mention here, you may or may not be aware, we actually have 2 power suppliers. WAPA there in green, that's a fixed allocation we received from the dams, the output from the dams on the Missouri River. Again, that's a fixed allocation. Everything above that comes from MRES. So again, any load growth above that 12,270 megawatts actually comes from MRES. So then taking a look at the classes again that use the electricity, again broken out into 3 basic customer classes that you have. Residential class, about 31% of the total usage. General commercial class is kind of a small customers here, 16%, and then the large demand build customers are about 53%. A couple other just kind of fun facts here, about 35%, just under 35% of your sales actually come from your 3 largest customers, so over a third of the electricity you sell is actually 3 customers that it comes from. Also in that 53% group, that largest customers, there's 19 total customers in there. For the residential class, it's about 950 customers. So again, it's those large customers really concentrated. Over half your usage is actually there. One more. Then getting into the actual operating results and reserves. So electric sales, again, under current rates, this year projected about $3.7 million in revenues. We're proposing a 2.5% increase in January of 2021, and we'll take a look at exactly what that looks like a little later. But essentially between that and a little bit of load growth, we're projecting about $3.9 million, so just over $200,000 of additional revenue by 2023. Again, also, the rates that we're proposing address increasing the reserves to a recommended minimum level that we've kind of come up with based on a couple other factors. Again, we'll look at those here in a couple of minutes. Address some cost of service adjustments, again, making sure that the residential class is paying for the cost of the residential class is incurring, etc. And then also some rate component adjustments within the classes. So making sure that customer charge, the fixed charge that doesn't change by the amount of usage you have per month recovers the correct amount there. Miscellaneous revenue is about $26,500 per year. This is bill penalties, some of the rebates that you guys offer with MRES, reimburses for temporary service, things like that. And then non-operating revenues is just interest income, pretty minimal, $3,500 a year, about 1% of your reserves. So then the cost breakdown of the electric utility, about 50% of it actually is for purchase power and transmission. So again, out of every dollar that comes in, 50 cents goes back to pay for purchase power and transmission. Debt service here, about 13%, salaries and benefits, 11%, transfer to the general fund, 9%, distribution supplies, A&G, 8%, building those reserves back up again near that minimum recommended level is about 8%. And then revenue finance capital expenditures, small amount there at 1%. This is fairly typical of what we see. Actually, purchase power and transmission oftentimes is even higher than this. You have actually some larger pieces on the other side of the pie graph there that are shrinking it a little bit. That transfer to the general fund is certainly a healthy transfer. Again, we'll look at that here in a little bit. Certainly warranted, but again, that's it decreases what the purchase power and transmission often looks like in some other area utilities that we look at.
I got a question.
Sure.
The debt service?
Yep.
Can you explain that?
So that's the debt service, the 2012 debt you have that'll be paid off in 2023, and then also the debt that was issued earlier this year, the 2020 debt. I have a slide on that here in just a couple slides as well.
What's the debt? I mean, what's the interest? What money are we talking about? The dollar amount?
The total amount.
It's the bonds that we just took for the new substation.
Oh, for the new substation.
And the stuff from 2012, there's like 675,000 left in that as well, I think is what it is.
Okay, my other question, transfer to the general fund for
Yep.
distribution of supplies or reserve for replacement. What would be the difference if you make that 6.5% or 7% and 7.5% for general fund? I mean, as far as money wise, I mean, this project that you got here is based on the 2.5% increase, right?
No, this cost breakdown is the cost breakdown. Those are what the expenses are going to be, whether you have the increase or not. So that's actually on the income side, or on the revenue side of things.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right.
Or he's not managing
No,
our
I'm
monies.
I know.
He did a study for us and just giving us a report on where we're spending our monies in the electrical department.
All right.
So the next couple of slides are looking at power supply rates, again, kind of just some background, some history here. So WAPA rates, again, they provide about a third of your power. In the early 2000s, actually, they had several increases. There was droughts on the Missouri River. They had to issue a bunch of debt. From 2010 to 2016, the rivers normalized, and that drought debt was actually paid off at the end of 2016. So in 2017 and 2018, WAPA actually had a combined 30% rate decrease, saving you guys about $136,000 annually. So again, rates here haven't been raised on the electric side since 2017. Part of that is certainly the $136,000 that you're saving annually from the WAPA decreases that they were able to pass along to their customers. And last we've heard through, they're projecting stable rates through 2023, which is the end of the study period here. Over the last several years, actually, they put a drought contingency fund together after they got burned in the early 2000s of having to increase rates and issue so much debt. They've actually set aside a kind of a rate stabilization fund to mitigate any average size drought debt that would be apt to come forward. So certainly good news on the WAPA side of things for rates. MRES rates, again, just a little bit of history here. Back in 2011, we went to a seasonal demand rate structure. Basically what this means is in the summer months, you pay a higher demand rate to MRES than you do in the winter months, and then it's even cheaper in the spring and the fall. Again, the reason for that, You have additional peaker plants, more expensive plants that need to be run in the summer to meet the air conditioning load and higher load. So again, kind of following the cost structure, we implemented that. In 2017, we had our last increase actually. And then in 2019, we actually reduced, we had a loss adder that was added to all energy and demand sold from MRS. So we reduced that by 3.2%, or eliminated that from 3.2% to 0, effectively reducing rates by 3.2%. The good news is here as well, 2020, 2023, we're projecting no rate increase. We're working through this process right now, and will be presented to the Board of Directors, Missouri River Board of Directors in September. So again, good news looking there. One last tidbit there. In 2023, we're looking at moving to time of use rates. So right now you have a seasonal demand rate structure. So basically you get one demand rate for the summer 3 months of June, July, and August. Again, that changes in the spring and the fall, it's a lower amount, and then in the winter it's kind of a moderate amount. What time of use rates does is the energy rate that we will send to you, instead of being a flat rate, will actually vary by time of day. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a summer day, the energy rate will actually be more expensive. And again, what the point of it is really us passing, the actual cost of energy that's more expensive in the summer afternoon when everyone's running air conditioning. And then by doing that, there's also a cheaper overnight energy that will be offered, from say 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. So essentially, again, it's trying to align our costs with what's actually being out there in the market. So what we're looking at with this, we're actually doing a wholesale rate study right now, completing earlier this year we started it. We get close to finalizing it. Basically what we've seen, it'll be revenue neutral. These rates will be revenue neutral to MRES. Our membership's going to see somewhere between a 1% increase and a 1% decrease. Again, based on, basically 2/3 of your energy comes from MRES. So the biggest or smallest increase or decrease you can see in 2023 is about 0.2%. So again, pretty minimal in 2023. Basically, and it varies by member depending on the load factor of each member. So. SPP transmission rates. So your transmission comes from the Southwest Power Pool. It's a big aggregate pool. All these transmission lines are in, all the costs get added in there, and they divide it out and come up with a rate of, in 2017 it was $6.27 per kW month. In 2018 and 2019 this actually dropped down to $5.35. In 2020 this is up to $6.29, and we're projecting a 3% increase in transmission rates going forward. So this kind of brings all of it together and kind of gives you a picture of where wholesale power costs and transmission costs are going to be. 2018 and 2019, about 5.68 cents, 5.63 cents. 2020 and 2023, again, just a slight uptick there from 5.7 cents up to just over 5.8 cents. And most of that's really due to the transmission power or transmission cost increase, the 3% increase there. So putting dollars to some of these numbers, in 2019, 1.9 million is was the actual amount spent on purchase power and transmission. In 2023, we're projecting that to be about 1.97 million. So again, pretty stable power rates really from 2019 through 2023. Other local operating expenses, again, these are the salaries, the A&G stuff, distribution, things like that. Just under 807,000 in 2019, increasing to about 880,000 by 2023. Depreciation is the biggest increase that we're going to be seeing, again, a non-cash expense, but with the large substation project, over $7 million, you're depreciating that over the 30 or 40 year lifespan, you see a pretty large increase on depreciation there. And then total transfers, again, that's $350,000 per year we've put in there from 2020 through 2023. So 1.4 million total there over these 4 years. So a couple metrics we do track at MRS and then also on a national level is the payments to support the local government. So what the electric utility actually provides to the general fund. Investor-owned utility, the national median is 4.8% there on the way left. MRS tracks all of it, 61 members plus several others in the 4-state area, about 5.3%. Again, these are as a percentage of operating revenues. So the dollars as a percent of operating revenues that are transferred. APPA, a national firm, American Public Power Association, 5.4% is what they see. Over the next 4 years, Beresford's looking at about 9.2%. Again, that's with the $350,000 transfer from the electric fund back to the general fund. And actually, over the last 4 years, it was even higher when that transfer was at that $400,000 level. So again, you can see certainly the transfer level is higher than what we do see. Again, also understanding that money from city government has to come somewhere, and it just depends on where it comes from oftentimes. Debt service, here's your question about that. 2012 bond series, again, $665,000 is what's left in principal to pay on that. That'll be fully repaid in 2023. At that time, there'll be $186,000 that's actually in a restricted account right now that'll become unrestricted. So when we take a look at reserves, you'll see from 2022 to 2023, the reserve level will jump. So part of it is the $186,000 that's transferring from restricted and becoming unrestricted. And then, of course, the 2020 bond series that was just issued earlier this year, $6.7 million over 20 years. Currently, that's about $300,000 annually until, again, that 2012 series is paid off. And then the way you had it structured is that would increase to $475,000, which is essentially what you're paying right now with both of them, with both the 2012 and the 2020 series. So come 2024, you'll just be paying on one debt series, but it'll be the same payment amount basically that you're paying 2020 through 2023. Capital expenditure plan, again, the obviously big transmission substation project that's going on, about $7.4 million is what we had come up with about the total that that's going to be. 6.1 million of that was debt finance, the other came from reserves over the last couple of years and earlier this year before the debt was actually issued. Again, when we take a look at reserves here in a couple of slides, you'll see where the amount that came from unrestricted cash actually came out. And then about $50,000 for just routine maintenance and upkeep of the distribution system. So then here's taking a look at historical projected net income. Again, kind of getting part of your question here of the additional dollars you saw in 2018 and 2019 due to the additional sales. Again, not all of those increase in 18 and 19 are due to that, but certainly some of that. You're seeing the additional sales there. Basically, from 2015 to 2017, you saw an increase of in net income from $85,000 up to $180,000. Again, in 2018 and 19, between the additional sales, the reduced power costs from WAPA, from MRES, again, you see the increase there in net income, certainly up to about $450,000 by 2019. In 2020, then through 2023, you see that actually continue to drop off. Again, as expenditures increase, and also with rates staying stable, you do see that drop off. A couple of the big things that changed there from 2019 to 2020, because again, that's a big change from $450,000 down to $70,000. And depreciation, again, that we had said increased from about $350,000 to over $500,000. Projecting slightly lower sales in 2020. Again, year to date, you're down just over 4%. The transfer level increases. I think last year was $350,000. I think is what it was at the end of 2019. I think we're projecting through 320. Now it's 350, something like that. Anyway, it's slightly higher in 2020 through 2023. And then also the bond interest kicks in. That you see there in 2020. So again, that's the reason for the lower net income there. So again, with the 2.5% increase in January of 2021, you see then that net income remains positive through 2023 at just under $60,000. So I like to put this slide in again just to kind of highlight the importance of reserves, and some of it is for rate stabilization, others just really providing for the unknown here. You don't know what's going to happen when it happens. You can lose a large business suddenly. Things like that could all of a sudden take a dent and hurt the electric reserve. So just kind of the importance there, and then in the next slide we'll actually take a look at what we're recommending as a minimum level of reserves. So we have three funds here that we've kind of established target levels, and then a total overall recommended reserve level there. So the operations fund, this is about 2 to 3 months of operating expenditures of the electric utility. should have about $800,000 in there at all times, again, to cover bills as they need to get paid, as cash comes in and out of those accounts. Capital improvements fund, a couple years of capital improvements, about $300,000, again, the ability to pay for some of these capital improvements without having to issue debt every time that one may arise. And then also just a contingencies, emergencies, and catastrophic fund. And things can happen, storms can come through, and you know, the electric system needs to be back up and running before FEMA can always come back in and reimburse you for things. So a total there of a recommended minimum reserve about 1.5 million. Again, as I mentioned before, 2023 revenues just over 3.9 million. So as a percentage of operating revenues, that's just under 40%, about 38%. Out of 87 area utilities we track, again, the median of their operating revenues as a percentage of their reserve levels is about 56%. So, you know, you're among that. Reserves in the past have been lower. Again, part of the reason been large capital expenditures, especially in the last couple of years. Certainly been investing in the distribution system, transmission system, and all those things attract new and large businesses like you guys have had success doing over the last several years, which again also increase sales and reliability too. So
What is our current reserve at?
next page, two more, next page.
Sorry.
To that. So the red line, from 2015 to 2017, it was just around 600,000, a little bit above for several years. 2018, again, with the high net income, you had about just under 900,000. And then at the end of 2019, before debt was issued for the substation project, a lot of cash was drawn down on that account to pay for some of that prior to issuing debt. So at the end of 2019, that was 270,000. Under current rates for 2020, again, based on year-to-date sales we're seeing, that'll jump back up to about 600,000. And then if you follow the red line across by 2023, that's about 1.25 million under current rates. The yellow line at the very top there, the minimum level that we're proposing is about 1.5 million. With that 2.5% increase, you would reach 1.55 million by 2023. And again, there's a note there. It certainly jumps from 2022 to 2023 there, and that's about $186,000 that becomes unrestricted in that year. Are there any questions on any of that? Covered some of it fairly quickly. Okay, move into this section just quickly. There's just a couple slides here. So the other aspect besides the financial, providing the minimum revenue requirements of the electric fund, is also making sure that each of the customer classes are paying their fair share. So that's what really the cost of service results tell us. So we take all the costs of the electric utility, allocate them to the customer classes, and then compare them with the revenues that the customer classes are bringing in. We come up with the difference there is basically the amount that you need to change rates to reach the cost of service. Again, the good news is, we'll see in 2 slides here, is that your rates are really close. The costs are really being recovered where they should be from each of the customer classes, which is certainly a good thing. You know, it's just been done over several times. I think Observer's done 3 or 4 other electric studies for you, and again, over time, those rates have become closer and closer to cost of service. So just to give you kind of a high-level idea here of the 3 different types of costs, and then also the 3 different customer classes. So the customer charge there, that's the amount that doesn't change. You know, the billing costs, metering costs, you know, no matter how much electricity is used, those costs are in the ground, those costs are fixed and need to be accounted for every single month. You have the demand costs, those are related to serving the customer peaks, that highest 15-minute or half hour of each month, you know, the distribution lines that have to be built for that maximum period of time. And then also the energy costs, those are the variable fuel and purchase energy. And basically those costs in the residential class are recovered on a customer charge class, which cost of service is saying should be just under $21. Currently for you guys, I think that's at $15 or $16, or $16 it is. So we're proposing to move that up $1 per year, or per month, to get closer to that $20 again, to recover more of those fixed costs where they're associated with. Then the demand and energy costs in the residential and general commercial class are actually bundled into a single energy rate. Seasonal rate structures you guys have, so again, as I mentioned, how Missouri River charges a higher amount in the summer months. You guys also see that here at 12.3 cents is energy cost for a residential customer in the summer months. Cost of service is showing the other 9 months about 11.4 cents. And you can see a similar trend in the general commercial class. And the demand build class, they actually receive a demand rate, which is directly correlated to the demand cost, and then an energy rate that's much lower and directly correlated to the actual variable cost of energy and fuel that's purchased for those customers. So again, here's the actual cost of service results. Also remembering on the far right bottom side, this is with the 2.5% increase. So essentially we're saying the residential class cost per kilowatt hour is about just over 14 cents. The revenue that they're bringing in is about 13.75 cents. The difference there is just about 2%. So ideally in a perfect cost of service world, residential rates would go up exactly 2%. General commercial class would go up 5.9%, and the demand class would go up 1.7%. Overall, since over 50% of your sales are actually in that demand class, that would equal exactly a 2.5% increase. The thought that we have is always to move towards cost of service, understanding that you change a couple of variables in the cost of service class, and certain things can start to change around. So really, if these percentages are within a couple of percentages, 2 to 4% or something around there, you're really within the margin of error really for cost of service. So again, things are looking really good on a cost of service perspective. And then the last portion here, looking at the actual proposed rates and comparison graphs. The current rates for residential customer, again, that current customer charges $16. Cost of service is showing it could be upwards of $20. Proposing it to go up $1, up to $17, and slightly increasing the energy charge from 12.4 cents in the summer months up to 12.7 cents. September through May, up from the 11.7 cents to 11.9 cents, about a 2.5% increase. And the other thing I should mention, this looked through 2023, so we're proposing a 2.5% increase in 2021, and then stable rates in 2022 and 2023. So really, these rates would take you up to 2024 as well, essentially, we're proposing. So then taking a look at some of the comparison graphs here. Typical residential customer in Beresford uses about 850 kilowatt hours per month. Current bill there is about $117, and that'd go up just under $3 to about $119, just under $120 per month. And there's several others, you'll see here towards the right side of the graph, there's several reasons for that. Part of it is the higher transfer level. There's other things, the large substation projects, certainly, anytime you take on a lot of debt, you need to increase rates. You gotta have a reliable system. Some of these others don't see the load growth that you do, so they still have a lot of WAPA power, which is cost-based, comes out of the dams. They're not seeing the other economic benefits of having other businesses come to town, having the additional customers, residents moving into town, buying houses, the other things you see from a growing population as well. And then the purple graphs up there, purple graphs up there are the co-ops in the area, Clay Union Electric and Southeastern Co-op. They're seeing a lot of cost pressures right now, especially from the COVID stuff, the coronavirus stuff that's happening. They're seeing a lot of customers, the rural customers are the ones that are really taking it some of the hardest and having the hardest time. So certainly there could be possibilities that in the near future they would have to see rate increases as well. And lastly, one more thing, just to say, these are rates, as of today. Again, with being stable rates here, it's certainly a possibility that by 2024 you could be further to the left of the graphs. So the commercial service graph, or rates here, again, increasing that customer charge from $26 to $28, getting closer to cost of service. With the energy charge there, 11.8 cents in the summer month, moving up to 12.2 cents. 11 cents flat for the other 9 months, moving up to 11.3 cents. This class be a little bit larger increase, about 3.5%. Again, cost of service is showing this class actually could be upwards of closer to 5%. So again, moving towards cost of service, understanding that you're probably never going to get actually there, and then by the time you do another study, things are going to change as well. So you just gradually move towards that. Average customer usage in this class is 1,800 kilowatt hours per month. Current bill is about $227.60. I'd go up about just under $8 to about $235.50. And then the last class here is your demand build class. customer charges $48, proposing that to go up to $52. Cost of service is showing this could be well over $100, again, based on the customer size and the larger fixed costs and meter costs that you do have with some of the larger customers and serving the largest customers. Demand charge is currently just under $19, propose that to go up to $20. The other 9 months, it's at $16.64, propose that to go up to $17.30, and then maintain the energy rate at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Overall, that class will see about a 2.2% increase. The last two comparison graphs here. This first one here is a customer uses about 73,000 kilowatt hours per month, about 260 kW. So they have a 38% load factor. So essentially, this means that they use a lot of demand. They have a high peak demand, a high 15 or half hour usage per the amount of energy they use. So they don't necessarily use the distribution system super consistently. They may have a 6 hour shift or a lot of welding equipment or something that uses the power more intermittently. This customer currently pay about $82.40 a month, $8,240. That'd go up right about $200 to $84.44. And then this last example here again customer uses about 50,000 kilowatt hours per month, 111 kW. Higher load factor, so again they use power more consistently, something like a grocery store where the freezers are always running or something that the usage is a lot more consistent. They're at about $4,500, just over $4,500, and it's about less than a $100 increase up to about $4,600. From a cost of service perspective, a customer with a higher load factor has a lower cost per kilowatt hour to serve, because again they use that distribution system much more efficiently, and you don't have to have the system overbuilt to serve this customer necessarily. So just wrapping everything up then, again proposing a 2.5% increase based on the rates we just looked at in January of 2021. Customer charges would go up slightly in each of the customer classes, maintaining that seasonal energy and demand structure that you guys currently have. Again, this really mimics what MRES has and what a lot of our members have as well. And then, your rates or your reserves, would continue to increase up to that minimum level by 2023. I think you'll be in a pretty good financial position by then. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly entertain them.
On the IOUs.
Yep.
On here, they got a number of other fees and
we try to capture a lot of those, but you are correct. They have a base rate, and then they have a monthly fuel charge that gets added on, and they have a demand side management that gets added on, and what they count as, we haven't changed our rates in 8 years, but they have this automatic adder that there's a whole list of them that gets added up, and it ends up being several cents per kilowatt hour and can really, add things up pretty quickly.
So that's not, you try to capture it, but that's not what we reflect.
There's certainly things that we could miss, but we do try and capture it, and especially because it's the fuel cost adjustment they're called. It changes every single month, so what's shown here actually is the previous year's average, because it's the best we can do at the time. Okay. So, but yeah, you're certainly right that the investor-owned utilities have to go through a pretty lengthy process to get their rates changed, so it's much easier to add a rider, is what they're called, and tack on a cent here and a cent there, and say they didn't change their base rates any.
Right.
I'm on the council, so I'm still trying to get up to speed.
Sure.
Who holds the reserves?
Well, they're in an electric fund within the city. There's an electric fund, enterprise fund that's actually within the city.
Okay, so we maintain those funds ourselves? The city does?
Yep.
Okay.
So Jerry, we're gonna be starting budgets. I personally, when you bring your first proposed budget, would like to see us with no rate increase, but lower our transfers to the general fund so we can build that reserve. We're already on the high end as far as our rates to our customers, correct? A little bit on the high end as far as statewide. So that's just me personally.
I got a question.
So that'd be so $350,000 transfer to general fund would be $275. That's correct, right? Yours about $75,000 a year at 2.5%, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was probably maybe just over that, but yeah.
Okay. So it's gonna make budgeting a little tougher, but that's why you pay the big bucks, Jerry.
I got some questions. First, we had companies move in here, and I was told when I voted on the businesses that we would be making money, not spending money. The other question here on your chart is Beresford is the second highest next to Elk Point. So you're trying to say we're the second highest on this page here, this 50
You're right.
kilowatts. So after we vote on this, when my phone doesn't stop ringing for about 3 weeks, I can explain why we're raising this.
We're not voting on anything.
No, I'm just saying, if we did on a rate increase, they're asking, the first thing they're gonna say is, we own everything, so why is our rate the second highest in the state or in this area?
Sure.
You should be directing that to him, not him. He's
Well, I was just
here.
saying.
Well, I can help answer some of the questions too.
No, but I agree with Tom too, because, people ask me the same question that Tom just brought up. They say there's no rate increase, but wait a minute, my bill just went up this, and it's like you said, the penny here, the penny there. I'm from Chicago, so if you raised it even a fraction of a cent, you raised your rate. I don't wanna hear, I raised it a penny, but we didn't raise it. That's called fraud.
Certainly.
So where I'm from, if you pay more, it should be put in here based on the figures we have. There might be some increase. I think it should have been clarified, crystal clear, a little better in our paperwork, and I appreciate that. Maybe next time, if you can make that.
On slide 48, it shows what your current rates are at just under $117 there. That's the typical residential customer, and with a 2.5% increase, that same customer would increase to just under $120.
Yeah, didn't you make a comment that you didn't have any rate increases?
Well, we're talking about the IOUs.
Oh, the IOU.
Yeah.
Good America, the XL.
Right.
Now, they got a base rate for they charge their customers, but they've also got a lot of what he calls riders.
Right. That's
So
what I'm
the fuel
referring to. Not
surcharge.
I'm just saying, right.
So that's your rate, but your bills from them is gonna show a bunch of different things. Your bill from the city of Beresford is gonna say, here's how much electricity you use, here's our rate, multiply the next rate.
Anywhere it should be declared.
There's not a lot of hidden rate, a lot of hidden factors in our rate. Our rate is our rate, and that's it. So,
I appreciate that. Thank
yeah.
you. Sorry about it.
No, you're fine. You're all good. I'm here to answer questions.
Right, thanks, Luke.
So I guess the only thing I was looking at is when you do the, on slide number, was it 4 or 5, the projected 2020 energy consumption in that pie, you said we have 19 customers in the general,
Yep, in the general commercial demand class there.
and about 950 in residential.
Yep,
I missed, what did you say in the general?
I don't think I highlighted it. Just about 230.
200.
Yep, about 230. And those are typically your smaller, Main Street businesses that, slightly bigger than the household, but certainly not manufacturing type things.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to, when I was looking at your projected net individually, when you went to, the residential increase, you're looking at 2.5, and then the general commercial was 3.5. And then the general service is 2.2, right?
Yep, 2.2, yep.
I just was trying to figure out how many that general commercial was. So.
Yep.
Okay, I missed that, thank you.
Yep. Jared, do you think there's some merit to wanting to look at reducing that transfer and what that would do to having a smaller overall rate increase? We can certainly look at something like that, and that's up to you, or.
Yeah, because you can just put a new number in there.
Yeah, I can just drop a smaller number in there and see what a 1 or 2% increase, or if you're trying to eliminate the increase altogether, or whatever that might be. I can certainly run a couple different projections for it and get those sent over as well.
That'd be good.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Moving on to committee and mayor reports. I don't see anything there. So the department head and city administrator report. Mike Anderson, electric superintendent, landscaping clearance requirements.
So, some issues popped up last week. We've noticed we're going around doing all these locates for for this fiber project, and we're getting a lot of areas we haven't seen in years on the overgrowth of bushes or landscaping around some of our equipment has gotten pretty bad. Some stuff came up last week, and I asked the customer to move the stuff. Tempers, a little bit of argument, and yeah, they moved them, but they didn't move them far enough. Still trying to push it, but I kind of put this together thinking maybe it's something we could look at. The stickers that I have that are on everything like this, it says 3 foot, 7 or 10 foot. It doesn't really tell you anything else, so, and I looked, really isn't much in the ordinance, for black and white. So I was kind of, put something together and, what's some guidelines.
What's the ordinance say? You said you looked at the ordinance?
There isn't nothing.
Oh, there's nothing at all?
Just all we have to go off is the sticker.
Maybe we ought to make an ordinance. What do you think, Terry?
I don't,
So are those on all the electrical boxes?
Every box
I mean, we
is covered that we have out there, so it'd be awful hard to identify each and every box out. We got a lot of boxes.
I'm just thinking of, what I put together is just some general guidelines, and if people don't maintain around it or they get carried away, I'm just looking at some, more clarification. And if I need to do something and get rid of somebody's shrubs that I'm not gonna, let's say, get in trouble for.
Well, I think the main factor is safety, isn't it?
So, yeah, and
If you don't focus
you gotta have
on
guidelines to follow, and not just, okay, he's got this, but you're not doing anything to him, so. And
I sent you the video on art. Have you guys had a chance to review that? When did we send that over?
Today.
Today, so I sent that over earlier today, something I got it. It shows just some damages that can happen when you open these structures. And that's why there's a 10-foot requirement is out there. If you're not in there working, typically you gotta shut that stuff off.
Right.
You can explain it to them, but you don't go right up to the box and shut it off. You open the doors and then you try to reach in and shut it off, but there's about 10 different lines or switches that are all involved in that whole thing, so.
I got pulled into this deal over the last 10 days, and because it was in Ward 3, where the tempers flared, right, Mike?
Yeah.
And so the issue is clearance for work and to work safely and to access the panels. Every transformer is different.
Right.
Some of the larger ones feed much larger areas. The one in question probably feeds 100 households.
Probably.
And it's a much bigger box and needs a bigger clearance.
Right.
So in the same neighborhood, there's some smaller boxes, for example, in front of Tom Freeberg's, where he has some grassy type bushes planted within inside the dimensions that are on the box for clearances. So he's in violation of that, but the electrical department's always been very lenient on that because it's grassy type stuff they can walk right on top of, and that stuff will come back. It doesn't restrict their access to maintain the transformer. We don't have.
What are you talking? Trees or bushes?
All of our transformers are on the ground. We might have a few on some poles. But
yeah, there's quite a few on poles, but that's why we do tree trimming.
So, but this one in question actually has a door on both sides.
Right.
And it's a much bigger box and requires much more room. And so the question came, if we're gonna enforce the setbacks completely to one customer, should we do it to all of them, including the grassy stuff? Or can we not just be civil and say, you understand that if you plant inside this area, if we have to access it, we're gonna cut, stop, or pull your stuff out, and we're not gonna pay to put it back because you're inside this parameter. It might require a newsletter, something on Facebook, asking people to maintain clearances around the electrical equipment for safety reasons. Technician safety, their safety.
And time, time. If we gotta cut our way into something.
If it's an emergency, you don't have time to go in there and trim somebody's bushes back.
Right.
You need to get into that box right now. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So we resolved the issue, I think, over there.
I mean, it's still an issue, you know, there's still stuff
some
inside the
things,
clearance.
Yep, but
But I just want it to be, you know, like, something like this where I need to get in there and I remove it. I'm okay to do it.
we're here to represent our constituents, and we need to make sure that we have Mike's back, and he understands our expectations, and Jerry, everybody understands. So if Mike wants to know, and, you know, Jerry step in here, but, you know, how strictly do we want him to enforce these setbacks around these boxes?
Oh, you know, you always get the story like, oh, that was a sentimental bush to me, or, you know, stuff like that. Or it was a tree that was, and you go and,
I kind of agree with Troy. If you do damage to that, we should have it in a newsletter, and I think every household or business in Beresford has electric, right? So put it in the newsletter, put it on Facebook, wherever you gotta put it, that we're not responsible for the damage.
that's kind of where I type this out, you know.
Right.
Unless,
But we have to make sure legally, what our insurance company will cover, right? But
I think,
yeah, Troy's got a point, if there's an emergency.
I think this is where Tom needs to weigh in on what we need to do.
I think what Mike's looking to do is just have it in ordinance that thou shalt not, or you assume the risk of having your stuff torn up. And I don't know if there's, you know, a tree is one thing, is a potted plant something else, or
we'd love to have potted plants. Stuff in the ground.
or, you know, whatever it might be, is there limitations?
But don't we already kind of have that and there's gotta be an easement for that box.
It is in the public right away.
It's in,
It's in a public right of way, because I have it.
other behind the sidewalk.
So,
are we allowed to landscape in that right away? Is there an ordinance on there already?
Although, I'm just going on mine, is behind the sidewalk. So the outside is public.
We'll get fences built across a lot of easements too, guys, and it just basically says in our ordinance, we have the right to go in and tear it down. We're not gonna put it back up. So
right.
what Mike's trying to just solve here, but I don't wanna go, he doesn't wanna go in and have to tear it out when he's in a hurry. And obviously in this case, it was just been planned that we didn't know anything about it. They go up, tell them to move it, so you still got a chance.
I have a question, would you say it is in an ordinance already?
It already talks about, if you do anything within the right of way easement areas, we can tear it out.
Yes.
So you can get in there and work on it, we can tear it out.
We would have easements for all those boxes.
I would hope most of them are in right of ways, especially in all the newer areas for sure, we're done that way. Everything that we plat now, we've secured easements before.
Well, the
we
green
plat.
box is not in the right of way in front of my house.
Well, the new plats, at least, will usually have a 5-foot easement around the perimeter for utilities. So it's an easement area that is not.
Because I've got one in my front yard and I got one in my backyard between my neighbor and I, and there's an easement there, and I was told, you can put your irrigation system in there, but if we have to go through there, and we're gonna damage it,
You're on your own.
you're on your own. So I think we already have.
I would just, now, I haven't looked at it for quite some time, but I know,
Right.
I deal with fences a lot, and just, that's what I always tell them, so.
Right. And, you know.
Well, let me weigh in just real quick on the one that has brought all this to head is, before I knew anything about this, I was out in the morning and I ran past that particular one. And the flagpole really, I mean, they stood out to me and I was like, how are those that close to that? And then later in the day, I got a call about that exact one, and I didn't know anything about it. And just even looking at it as I went by it, it just struck me as being really odd that they were that close.
Wouldn't they have to have a one call to put up a flagpole?
They did, and that's why I called him and said I'd really appreciate getting put on it.
I guess what I was concerned about was like lightning and stuff like that. And, you know,
And I think he warned them about all of that before the flagpoles went up.
And then they showed up, and then they're
okay,
still
then
inside.
if lightning strikes that thing and fries out that transformer and it ends up damaging $100,000 worth of stuff in there, who's liable for that? I guess that's my question.
Well, I think if we got, to my understanding, if we got the ordinance already in place, I understand what you're trying to do.
I just
Mike.
like the 3 foot, 10 foot. That's all I want.
I agree.
And if I have to do something inside that 3 and 10, I don't want to get a phone call.
Right.
You know, why'd you do this?
So you wanna add, so we're not really having in the current ordinance, it doesn't have that clearance of the 3.
It's
I don't think that's
It's
what's
just,
in there.
it's
I don't
just
know
the
that-
stickers we put on there.
So you wanna add that to the
Let me
ordinance?
see what I'm sticking
I think we need to review our ordinance, make sure that these specifics are in there,
Right, review the
along
ordinance.
with the fact that if you violate and plant or put flagpoles up or whatever inside this area and you cause damage to city property, i.e. the transformer or anything, you're liable. I mean, we need it to be very specific. And once that ordinance is, you know, updated, approved by us, then I think it goes out with the electric bills. Put it right in front of them, just be like, hey, update to the ordinance.
The other thing I thought about getting was them door tags. You know, we find something that's, I mean, really bad. I mean, like I said, if it's got a few grasses, I'm not gonna be too worried about them. But the bushes and the shrubs and the trees and that, you know, hanging on the door,
Something that has a trunk.
roots, you know, we don't want roots growing inside these. You know, and then you get the firewood stacks and the garbage piled up around them, and we gotta move it. You know, or then you get rodents, you know, getting inside. So,
How much time would it take you to put together this for the ordinance to conclude this?
Tom's looking at it right now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was trying to see what we got.
Is there anything
I don't know,
that we
I had
could,
a hard time.
You can just come with a
Up in the right
recommendation.
of ways.
Let's look into it, see what we can do.
Mike, is there anything that we can add on to these down on the bottom, that anything, or maybe change the wording in here, that anything
To me, that's pretty
planted or
accurate, that's
put in
pretty.
there? But I wanna add that if any damage resulting from them putting something inside the 10 or 3 foot
We can make them
is
bigger, I'm sure.
their responsibility. Financially, you know, the city's not gonna pay to replace if you're causing damage, so to say.
And then it all goes to, if we have to do maintenance and we have to replace a box at somebody's house and they have landscape flowers all over it, I don't wanna spend a day putting landscaping back. You know, that's, they chose to put it in the 3 and the 10 foot.
Exactly.
Well, if they put wood chips all the way around that box, it's not our responsibility to put those wood chips back if you have to change out that box.
Right.
I've thought about landscaping around mine, but each time I think about it, I think I gotta call the city and find out what I can and cannot do. And I haven't done it. I'm tired of trimming around it.
I just think there needs to be some
Put some
verbiage
around it.
that they're going to be responsible.
And we'll probably have to, we can probably do an ordinance to clarify all that, because it's not, I don't see anything that's really clear on that, but we can get something to put together for the next.
Are you-
meeting.
Are you concerned with the flagpoles?
I'm concerned with the flagpole, and I told him that.
I mean, I was before I knew any of this had happened.
So,
I told him he needs to move flagpoles, a couple lightning rods, too close to the box.
thank you. That's what I
His
said.
only argument was, well, the street light is taller, so it'll hit that first. I'm like, you know, we just had a short stick out of the golf course hit by a lightning strike, so.
So,
Would our insurance cover that then if snow was there damage? We can double check on that.
Talking about what?
You know, if he comes up to the box, something's in the way, we just throw, it, you know, dig it out and throw it to the side. Our insurance, I mean.
We're gonna just have it so that the city's not liable, because they're in violation of the ordinance.
Right, okay, right. Alright. That's fine with me.
Because I'm assuming insurance wouldn't cover it if,
Well, insurance
This
is gonna cover,
flagpole
I mean, we don't have that stuff insured, right? So like a transporter.
no, you just take the loss.
Sure.
So,
But if it's caused by the homeowner, then the potential that the homeowner's insurance would cover that, right, Mr. Insurance Director?
If they were negligent, legally liable, possible.
if they were found,
As long as their policy didn't have some kind of liability exclusion for something like that, correct? Doesn't mean they still wouldn't be legally liable, maybe just their insurance wouldn't pay it.
Are you gonna review my insurance policy?
Up to you.
So he'll deny your claim. We'll look at putting an ordinance together to get it clarified, so Mike's got.
For example, if you didn't call for a one-call locate, and you went and dug a flagpole, and you hit a line, you're negligent, you're on it, you know. If you call for a one-call, and you tell them I'm putting a flagpole here, and the electric department misses the line by 3 feet, then you're not negligent.
No,
The city could be liable if a guy got injured.
but if you ask somebody to put it out, if you ask somebody to put it outside your clearance zone, and they put it inside, and something happens down the road, that should be negligent.
Okay.
We'll put something together.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. Jerry Zimet's, city administrator review report.
I'm gonna start with Lewis and Clark Regional Water System. I went to one of their meetings here recently to kind of get some updates on a few things. And then we had Tom Harrison came and met with Gerald and I and Jeff Heidebright and Tom Krieger on a couple issues there. So first, just giving you a kind of where Lewis and Clark is at today. They are in the process of expanding up to 45 million gallons per day, and that's what we originally signed up for. They're selling between 27 and 30 million gallons per day right now, and with Madison and three communities over in Iowa still to come on, they want to get up to that rather quickly. That includes the new water tower that's being built southeast in Beresford here also. So that's kind of the plan that they're looking at. They are looking to expand possibly 8 to 10 years up to 60 million gallons per day. And I think in your packet there you had just an estimated cost of what, if Beresford wanted to take part in that, 483,000 gallons per day is what we would be eligible for, up at 15 million gallons. And your cost would be about $2.54 million in today's dollars. So quite a significant additional cost if we do choose to do that. We're not making any commitments right now. They're still trying to get to the 45 million, but they're thinking in that 10-year period. I want you guys just to be aware that that's being talked about on the big level there with Lewis and Clark. So nothing needs to happen there. We talked about the final true-up numbers too, and I asked Troy, the manager of the system there, kind of where there's 20 total members and only 4 of them had a final true-up where we actually owed money. And none of these really would have known until just the last couple of months, because they hadn't done a final true-up in over 11 years. So we had no idea even what we owed, so that we could have paid it off. But as it turns out, we are one of the 4 that owes money. We owe $111,797.47. So when I talked to Troy, I said we'll try to budget something each year, probably over the next 4 to 5 years to pay that off. It's not due for about 9 years. I think he said about 2030 is when we'd have to pay it. But if we pay it off a little bit as we go, we won't have as much interest added to it. So that wasn't our fault. We didn't know anything about it, to be real honest with you. And I don't think anyone did until the sheet came out about maybe 2 months ago. So I just want you guys to know that will probably be an item that we look at in our budget again for the next 4 to 5 years to pay it off. We don't really have anything reserved right now, because we depleted our reserves significantly when we did the water tower. It was a very large undertaking that took pretty much everything we had in reserves at that point in time. So, and I think the other thing I had with these guys is we've been approached by Clayrell Water System. We have a hookup with them right now down by the Methodist Church. It's an emergency hookup more for Clayrell water than for them serving water back to us. But they don't use it very often. They are in need of, I believe, an additional 200,000 gallons of water from and they're approaching any members with the Lewis and Clark system right now. So any of the 20 members could actually say, hey, I'd love to sell some, we got too much. Maybe somebody will do that. Beresford also has the opportunity, if they want to sell some of their reserve water that we aren't using right now. But I'll talk about that just a little bit. So right now we're committed to up to 275,000 gallons per day to the dairy. We had a lot of water, especially in the wintertime, that we weren't using, but we had to pay for. So that we sold them that water several years ago, and increased that about 3 years later from 175 to 275,000 gallons per day. So we are right now in our last billing cycle, we averaged about 655,000 gallons per day, and that was our June bill. So we were just a couple 100,000 gallons less than what our overall amount that we could purchase is. So we want to be very careful. I don't think we are in a position where we can go ahead and sell any more water. We need to keep that for our own capacity. As you can see, what our cost to add another 400,000 gallons being almost $2.7 million. That's pretty expensive. So we need to protect what we have already. So anyhow, that being said, I just wanted to see your guys' thoughts, if you thought we should explore it any further with Clay Rural, the possibility of selling any of the additional capacity we have, or just say, let's hold where we're at right now. So I'm kind of getting a little, if you guys think we're okay.
What's our monthly allocation?
875,000 gallons.
And we're at 650.
665 last, 655 last June.
And that includes the 275 too.
It includes everything that they were using at the, out of the dairy out there. So,
Dairy, which,
it's a dairy northwest of town.
oh, I didn't know we sold water.
We sell water to
South Lincoln.
South Lincoln Rural Water, and they in turn sell to dairy.
Okay.
So
Do we make money on the sale of the water?
We do. And it helps us mainly in the winter time when we don't use we have to pay for 218,000 gallons every day, even if we don't use it.
Okay.
And we were using about 110,000 in the winter time, so by adding them on, they brought us over that amount. So we gave them a little bit better deal, but at the same time, they're helping us out too, so.
And is that on a contract basis over so many years?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got agreements in place.
20 or 25
Yeah,
years.
20 or 25, somewhere in that area, so yeah, it's
What
pretty
do you,
locked
what do
in.
you, till 2025 or 20 or 25?
20 or
years?
25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming they want to buy it all from one customer, they don't want us 50 here, 50 there.
I don't think they would care as long as it's a Lewis and Clark member. The thing we could look at here is if they run through our system here, we could look at a wheeling charge, so we would make so much per 1,000 gallons that goes through there, even though we aren't necessarily
Are we the
selling
only
more
member
water.
that they're currently hooked to?
Only one are hooked to.
Yeah.
There's
If
emergency.
we didn't sell them any of our water, we could get a little bit of something for distributing it to them.
Centerville, for example, could say we've got extra capacity, we'd like to sell some to Clay. But they gotta go through our system, through our valves to get to Clay.
And we have additional costs there too, wear and tear on our equipment, valves, stuff.
But we've got an emergency connection with Clay
Yeah.
that was done 10, 15 years ago.
Clay did all that themselves, we didn't pay for that.
They paid for that because
Oh, okay.
if their tower goes out south of town, they have no ability to serve that area. So they wanted to be able, in an emergency situation, to buy water from Beresford.
Are we limited to the 275 for the dairy, or could we just tell them you can get 200 and sell 75?
That's all we have to sell.
Oh, no, but I'm saying, do they have a limit, or we can give them? Because if we cut the limit and gave some of the Clay, would we make more of Clay?
I don't think we can cut their
We
limit.
can't cut that.
Oh, okay.
Because they've upgraded their facilities knowing that they got that water, and they're using all of it right now, so.
So,
Especially in summer.
So we would have, how much,
175,000, maybe 200. But you can, one business coming in could take a pretty good chunk of that.
right,
Dairy takes about, or the hatchery takes about 20,000 gallons a day.
I don't think we want to risk it.
I think there's others that could sell them
Yeah.
based on what Lewis and Clark's saying.
so much would we,
It's just
how,
one direction
if we
from
sold
us.
them, if we sold them 50,000 gallons a day, how much would we make?
As we charged them,
I mean, whatever the going rate would be, how much would it be for $1.70?
well, it'd probably be a bulk rate there.
It's not gonna make us any money. Not really.
Well, we pay 61 cents a thousand over our allotted to 218,000 gallons, so it's pretty cheap after that, so. But again, if we commit to it, we're gonna really limit ourselves for future growth, I'm afraid. And I don't wanna see us have to go out here and buy 433,000 gallons at
Right.
$2.8 million.
So that we can bring in another
Right,
customer.
bring in,
And we would have another
$2,000 a month or something like that, or $100,000 a month. We can look at it on a wheeling basis, maybe it's 10 cents a thousand that goes through, or 15, or 20 cents. I have no idea what the real rates are for that kind of stuff. but-
I'm guessing there's others that have a bigger reserve or more water available than we do.
And Lewis and Clark can help us figure out what a wheeling rate would be.
But I think that's the discussions that we will have with those people with, play rural water then.
If they run their water through our pipes, we get tiller, right?
We'll get something out of it.
Right.
It won't be our water, it's someone else's water, that just.
Right. You guys can tell.
So we'll kind of go down that route. If we don't take any action, we'll just want to make sure you guys kind of know what direction we're heading here and we need to keep our water, so. Missouri River Energy Service strategic planning, we talked about this all back before COVID-19 hit, the coronavirus, and we didn't make any decisions. Missouri River hasn't been out doing any of these sessions at all, but they just got back to me again and asked if we were interested in it. I don't know if any of you guys have sat in on any strategic planning, but we can kind of work whatever direction we want it to go. If we want to talk mainly electric stuff, or if we want to talk citywide planning, they don't really care. Looks like you'd have to develop maybe a day or 6 hours to 6 to 12 hours possibly over a period of a couple months or something to do some of this. So, and the cost is right around $1,000, which is way cheaper than what we've done in the past. I think the last time we actually sat down and did one of these was in 2005. So we had a guy come in and help us set up a bunch of different goals, what do we want to accomplish in the next 5-10 years. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. If we want to sit down and do some longer range planning rather than just year-to-year type stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, we'll sure get back and gather some more information for you. But
I'll get some information on
you should have a handout in there, Art. There's a copy of a handout in there that kind of talks a little bit further about it, and time frames and all that kind of stuff. I included some of the previous information that we have there for her too. So 1 or 2 day process, 2 sessions would probably be able to get through most of it. But it'd probably be a couple special meetings in order to get it done.
it. Who would go to it, you or?
The council would be involved, and any other, if you want any of the department heads involved with it. I mean, you can set it up that way. If you want to deal with just department heads, they can do it that way too. She's worked with all different ways. So. But I don't want to, if you guys aren't interested, I don't want to ever waste your time either, so.
I'm not interested.
Well, that's the only information I have in the packet, that's it. This is all you got is brochure in here.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you get right now. If you want to get down and have, she'll come down and talk to you and run through it with you too.
For $1,000.
Yeah, so.
I need to buy you a lunch, or
Huh?
They won't.
Okay.
Well, we don't have to take any action on it. I'll just kind of let her know, put us on the list. We're not quite ready to go forward with anything yet. So.
Thank you.
No big deal. And my final thing is, several meetings ago, we were working with American Tower, and we did most of our negotiating with the American Tower in executive session. Well, they wanted a copy of the minutes where we authorized someone to sign off on that. And I told Tom we didn't have anything like that. It was all done in executive session. So they have a resolution and consent affidavit that we can sign off on that just basically tells us that it's okay for me to sign and say we did everything as it said, but we just didn't do it out in open session because we didn't feel it was right to let everyone else know what we had negotiated with the American Tower people.
Need a motion?
I just need a motion to authorize.
Shall I make a motion to authorize city administrator to sign resolution consent affidavit as Jerry stated?
Boone will second that.
Ooh.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize city administrator to sign resolution and consent affidavit. More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Anything else, Jerry?
That's it for now.
Alright. Okay. I guess we'll be moving into old business. Ordinance 2020-04, an ordinance establishing procedures for issuance and regulations on sale licenses for full-service restaurants in the city of Beresford.
Actually, that would be a second reading. We did have the first reading, so.
So we just need a motion on that?
Nope,
Or
that's just it, right?
that's it too?
No, if you wanted to adopt it, it takes a motion, second, and vote.
Don't we have to have 3 readings before we adopt?
You can adopt it in the second reading.
Okay.
First reading was on the July 20th, yeah.
So Doug moves to approve ordinance 2020-04, establishing a procedure for the issuance of regulation of on-sale license for full-service restaurants in the city of Beresford, South Dakota.
Sure, second. Motion's made and seconded to approve ordinance 2020-04. Is there any more discussion?
And then the process would be, once the ordinance is effective, it calls for setting of the fee for that type of license by resolution of the council, so.
So we'll be doing that at a later date?
Yeah, not setting the fee tonight, no.
Just approving the ordinance. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 2020-04 passes. Next item on the old business is fuel part restroom option.
I'll take that one, cut to the chase if you want me to real quick,
Yes.
Larry. I talked to Greg Bates before the meeting tonight, and I had asked him and Jeff to get together and give us an estimate on what it would cost us to get those pads ready to put any restrooms down. And between him and Jeff, they don't think they can do the finished pad per the specs on the restroom sheets. It's gonna have to be a contractor that would do it, that can laser level it and all that stuff to get it compacted and all that. So we're gonna hook up with Greg, being me, Art, and Teresa sometime in the next couple days. And you also, Jerry, and try and come up with what restroom we want so that he can use the spec sheet from the restroom to give it to some contractors to get a quote for how much it would cost to do the pad and the plumbing. That was a 1-minute explanation of a 20-minute phone call.
So they will still remove the old, and basically make it bare ground.
The city's gonna.
The city will, right, the city will remove the old. Now, the utilities are still gonna be there. Hopefully that contractor can use what's already there.
That's why we need to figure out what
Which one?
building we're gonna have before they can do the quote for where the specific lines need to go on the pad.
Does anybody have a strong opinion on which one, or are you guys okay with the Parks Committee kind of deciding?
Well, I'd like
Assuming
the
it more
4-person.
expensive.
The 4-person ones, I think we.
I think,
Yeah.
we need the 4-person.
For the
Yeah,
park,
and the
that's
same
what the
thing
decision for the park.
With the one at the golf course, and it has been confirmed that sewer and water are to the pad area at the golf course. So all we have to do is make the pad plummet.
And do we get a discount if we get 2 of them at a time, or?
Yes,
Nice.
from one or two of the contractors, there's a discount for get both, right?
This one here, he said the only real discount she'll get is if the site is fairly close, they don't have to move the crane too far. They gotta let these things off, so if they had to come down from Sioux Falls with the crane twice, it'd be a little more spendy.
So,
Anyhow, these are bid out. The ones I gave you are bid out. They'll have engineered stamp drawings and all that kind of stuff that come with them.
in that,
If we do decide to go to somebody else, it'll have to be bid out. We'll have to hire probably an architect or somebody that has the ability to design these buildings. And then put all that work together. So it's gonna cost us a little money to do that. Like I said, these are already bid out. They're through Sourcewell, which is a place that we can buy from without having to go through all that process. And that's what makes it nice and easy that way. I don't know, there might be somebody that makes it a little bit cheaper, but by the time you're all said and done, you're gonna still probably spend just as much by the time you get the architect.
What was in the amount for this year?
We have 100,000 in there. These guys are 90 to 120 days out from the time you place the order. So it's not gonna be this
This
year.
would be done in the spring anyway.
I would think if we can roll that 100,000 and budget another 100 between the two buildings or a little bit more, we should be able to cover both the park and the golf course one. That's what I would suggest we do anyhow.
talking to Greg, and Greg agreed it'd be nice to have it done by April.
I think that's possible, if we can get them ordered first part of the year.
And he said to the
Yeah,
contractors
Yep.
that he'll get the quotes from, we'll start slowing down October, November.
If we have to put a down payment on it, we can put a down payment on this year, we've got money in the budget for that too, so.
But now we're looking at added cost because of the, having to have the site prepped for us.
What's that?
The added cost of the site prep.
There's probably gonna be some, yeah.
Rerun all the plumbing and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
New water lines going up to the different areas. And some, when they set it down, they just put it right over the top of all those plumbing lines that you already have stuck up in the ground.
Sure.
And I just wanted to touch base with Greg and Jeff to see if they could do the work, how much of the work they could do. And that's when they got together and said, yeah, they don't think they can do any of the, they can get rid of it all.
Yeah.
And do all that, but the pad prep itself.
That makes sense.
How old is the sewer water coming into that city, that park bathroom?
Probably as old as the building, 30s.
So that may need to be replaced when we start digging over there.
We can do that, bring it in.
We can do that ourselves.
I think the prep around the site is gonna be a problem for us.
Right. Just that, he was referring to the pad. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll hook up with you later in the week. No?
Monday.
Beginning of
I'm
next
gone tomorrow, or afternoon I'm gone for the rest of the week, so.
Beginning of next.
Well, unless we just run a quick thing with these that Jerry's given, I guess I would put out the recommendation for the Arapahoe, which is the very first one. Pictures on the second page. That's the four for the main park. And I would like to recommend the Denali. I'm not sure how many pages back. 7 pages back. Yeah, it's the most probably expensive one out of the two.
54.
Two stall one, the 54,000. However, we're putting this on our, I'd like to say, state-of-the-art golf course. It needs to look nice.
Right, I agree with Teresa.
You can go onto their website, they've got some 3D models you can kind of take a look at too. And if you want all the plans, all their specs and everything are on there too, how they're built, so. About 7 pages of them on each one of them, so.
And would these be considered like tornado shelters?
No, we won't be, these will actually be just set on the ground.
Okay.
But they definitely protect you from hail or whatever else if you're out in the golf.
Well,
course.
I mean, it's not gonna be, we're not gonna get it done any quicker whether we do the Jerry on Monday or.
No, I'm just saying that way you can give these. Isn't this what he needs? Is where?
No, he needs the stuff from the website.
We can get some stuff from these guys, if they don't know why, it'll show you exactly where the plumbing has to go.
Madhouse.
So Jerry can tell me stuff.
Yeah, we'll find that out, that shouldn't be a big deal.
How about this? We'll come together and we'll talk here real quick and then I'll let you know on Monday. And then move ahead on Monday.
Good plan.
Thank you for your time and effort.
Okay,
Good job, Teresa.
thank you. Moving into new business, pay request number 1 for the Fiber to the Home project.
I think Todd told you that the first one would be a pretty large one because we haven't had any draws yet, they've been in town for quite a while, so. First draw is $495,228.97. We would just like to have a motion to authorize paying that.
Bill moves to, make a payment of $495,228.97, to FAR Technologies, payment request number 1.
Tiedemann second.
Motion's been made and seconded for pay request number 1 for the Fiber to the Home project. Any discussion?
No, it's far.
That's, hang on a second.
Those goes to us, urban cable construction, yeah.
Bar's the engineer that approved it, so I think,
Why isn't that on there?
Oh, it is.
I'm sorry, the engineer, so.
Yep.
So
I'll
we need
amend, I move to amend my motion to make that payment, to Urban Cable Construction LLC instead of FAR Technology.
Who seconded? Ron second.
In a second.
Mike second. I'll second. Yep.
Okay.
So that's just modification, clarification of the motion, so you don't need.
So we don't have
You
to.
don't need
can vote on it.
you don't need a motion, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the motion has been made and seconded, and made correct. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
We knew you didn't mean what you said.
You had it right. All right, next item, change order number 2 to the fiber to the home project.
Todd Washington's pretty close, so I mean, he doesn't come in here recommending a change order unless it's absolutely needed, but we needed an initial sell for fiber termination is what it is. The amount is $2,797.51, so that'll change our contract by that amount. It's an increase, so I just want to have a motion to let you guys know that we were increasing that by that amount, so if we can get approval, that'd be great.
So I can make a motion to approve change order number 2, the fiber to home project.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded for the change order number 2 for fiber to the home project in the amount of what was it, Jerry?
$2,797.51.
$797.61. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Next item is to consider American Wind Week proclamation.
Is Nathan still on there?
He is.
Okay. I drew this up there, I don't know if Nathan had a chance to look at it, but it was something that was being recommended by the American Wind people. I think they're trying to get a bunch of communities in South Dakota to do it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's, we had some wind energy people looking around Beresford not too long ago, and we supported the effort they were making at that time to provide renewable energy, obviously through our partnership with Missouri River. So it would make sense that if Mayor Nathan would like to proclaim that, there's a proclamation that we would just include in the minutes. So I'm not going to read it all for you guys. You can read it if you want to.
Thank you.
All right. So we're just gonna.
I don't think you have to have a motion or anything. We just proclaimed it.
All right. Request to hire seasonal help outside service workers for the Bridges Golf Course.
Gavin Batista is heading to college, and then would like to have Josh Nummer and Chase Lyle available to help with some of the things that he does around there, filling the golf carts, cleaning the golf course, wiping down, things like that. Is it Chase or it's Gage? Gage is the wrong name then.
Well,
I think it's
email
Chase.
director.
Susan.
Sorry. So Doden moves to approve the hire for Josh Limmer for the golf course at the rate of $9.30 per hour, and Chase Lyle also for the golf course at $9.30 per hour.
Motion has been made to accept the application of Josh Limmer and Chase Lyle at the rate of $9.30 per hour. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That request carries. Review wages for part-time custodian at the liquor store.
Donnie Jervick's been helping us out do that. Donnie also works as a bartender and getting things set up for us every day here lately. So, is he getting paid $9.30 an hour as a bartender? Okay. We would like to move him to $10 an hour, which is the lowest wage on our custodian scale. Switch one from so that he's on the scale of what he's doing there. So.
Shall I make a motion to review the wage for part-time custodian at the liquor store that Jerry Simon stated to $10 an hour from $9.30 per hour?
So I'll second, so we can.
So, I'm wondering if we can go back to when he started helping us clean on July 21st and reimburse him for that time. It's an hour a day he's been putting in.
So would he get 2 different pay rates then? Okay.
Is that the same person?
So he's gonna get 2 different pay scales?
Mhm.
Oh, with
One for
bartending
bartending,
and
one for cleaning.
Oh, okay, I thought it
Oh,
was
so the $10, you wanna go back to July what?
21.
July 21st, 2020, as Elaine stated.
He's doing a great job.
Okay, so motion has been made to move Don Jury to the custodial wage for the liquor store at $10 an hour going back to July 21st of 2020. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Step pay increase for James Burns for the street and water department.
And he'd be going from $20.79 an hour to $21.36 at 95% of the scale. And I have talked to Jeff, and he is in agreement, and we would like to move James up to that, up the scale.
Shall I make a motion, step pay increase for James Burns for street, water, and sewer department, as Jerry Simon stated.
Golden second.
Motion's been made and seconded to step increase for pay for James Burns in the street, water, and sewer department to $21.36 per hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Is there any discussion items? No?
Jordan moves we pay the bills.
Do we second that? Motion's been made and seconded for payment of bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. The bills will be paid. Next item is executive session for personnel.
Motion or just declare? Both are voting. Jordan moves we move to executive session for personnel issue.
Boone second.
Motion to go into executive. All in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive.
Nathan's still.
Yeah.